All right. Good morning, Makin Moves family. It is 10 a.m. Tim Vest is not with me today. He is out and about doing some errands and things like that. But we got a special guest. My man, Dan Tollens, is in the house. He is local to me. He lives down in Carolina Beach, and I'm in Wilmington. So we live about 20 minutes away from each other. But Dan is a great guy with an even bigger heart. And he has this really interesting story that I'd love for him to share because he's doing a lot of what other people would like to do or aspire to do. You know, the common theme that we've experienced in the real estate world is that people start in the fix and flip space using their own money, and they work up from there, and they continually wanting to grow and grow and grow. And there's this mindset shift that needs to happen when you move out of one asset class and into another. So Dan recently purchased his first self-storage facility, so he's learning how to kind of dabble in that market right now. And he's also opening up his Carolina Beach Inn, which is a motel to short-term rental conversion that he's done, which is opening up in a week or two now. So without further ado, Dan, thanks for being here today, man. I really appreciate you coming on. Why don't you give people a better introduction about yourself and the things that you've done so that they can have an understanding of who you are and what your experience is?
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. Appreciate it. Glad things kind of worked out here. Yep. So my name is Dan Tollens. Was in Charleston, South Carolina, my whole life, and my wife Cassie and I work hand in hand. We've come from a construction and cleaning and real estate agent background. So we started out we met doing HOA management, and we did that together for a while, and decided we needed some more income. And our boss told us that we needed to start another business doing landscape and janitorial services. So, just work harder. So we kind of went down that road for a while, and have just collectively, worked for other people and had contracts and met a lot of other great entrepreneurs along the way. And we were kind of on the other side of being the licensed builder for real estate investors. And eventually that kind of, we like to say that it ran its course and decided we need to be on the other side of things. And so we had a great relationship with another realtor who he had inside track on a lot of foreclosures and things of that nature. So he and I started flipping houses together. And now it's just been 4 years of doing that. And Cassie and I, in the last, I don't know, 15 months or so, have kind of really started doing more stuff on our own, and with a couple other like just selective silent partners on some deals. And so we would flip 50 plus single family houses a year. And one of the biggest things we were spending money on was trash. So we eventually got into a roll off dumpster business and started that with 27 cans, and now we're at 200, and started with no trucks, and now we're at 4 trucks. We've had offers between $3 and $4 million to buy that from us. That is something that we're not interested in doing. This is a long-term play for us. I think we'll kind of talk about that here in a little bit about, the short-term money, the long-term, and then, some other stuff in between. So, but anyway, that's in Charleston, and we decided in June of this past summer that we were going to move to Carolina Beach. We had just bought the Carolina Beach Inn, and that was already kind of up and running and functioning. But for us, the people we purchased it from were the operators, and they were doing the cleaning, and they were doing all the maintenance and cutting the grass and all that stuff. And we saw the opportunity to just kind of plug and play a lot of systems and processes and remote doorknobs, and a lot of upgrade the internet service and upgrade the rooms. And so that whole thing is kind of already, we're having our grand opening here in the next week or something like, I think March 23rd. So we've had a really great time doing that. We actually bought one street over that we're going through the process now of getting the construction permits and getting that, construction started. And, part of moving to North Carolina for me was getting out of the minute to minute, the hour to hour, the day to day stuff, and being more of a true real estate investor. And part of that, was not reciprocating my license, my builder's license up here. So kind of forced me to be more of just like the analytical and, trusting that the guys are going to do the construction properly, and, all those fun things that you're currently dealing with, I'm sure, on some of your value add properties. But that's kind of one of my challenges this year is just letting things run their course and not micromanaging and overmanaging and stepping out and just trying to do it all myself or bring my team in and do some things. We just kind of learned that it's time to just step back and just not worry about being busy all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, man. I love everything that you've done and kind of your backstory about how you got there. And that is something that's really hard for a lot of people to do is to let go, right? Because when you're the contractor and you're the builder, you're doing everything yourself and you have ultimate control, right? But then again, at the same time, it's really hard to scale when you're doing stuff like that. So learning to build a team that you trust that can do it 80% as good as you can do it is usually good enough. And you move yourself out of that active role and into that management role. And I like to call it like you're just an adult babysitter.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, is you want everybody to follow the systems and processes and document what they're doing and report back when they should. And I bet you've seen from now being on the other side of the table what that looks like. Well, now you understand like why you were getting asked the questions you were getting asked back when you were the builder instead of
Yeah.
the owner. So it's a really interesting dynamic to see how you flipped from one side to the other. And I love that the natural organic growth is there. And that's actually the first time that I heard that you moved to North Carolina so that you were forced not to be the builder. And I love that because
Yeah.
it's that sink or swim moment. Like you're pushing yourself and you're putting yourself in an uncomfortable environment because you identified that this is what's going to help you get to your goals in the future. You swinging the hammer is fine, but you're not going to get to where you want to go. You can't flip 50 houses and build 30 short-term rentals and do everything that you're doing now if you were the one that was having to be on that job site controlling everything that was moving around.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's opened doors to, let us go out and, build our brand. We spent a ton of money and time trying to build our brand and, getting out and to meet more folks and accepting other folks' money. And part of that, you and I were talking earlier, is that we spent so much of our own money and effort towards whatever it was we were doing. We weren't really concerned about the outside investor because it was our own money. And now it's like, all right, well, to scale this thing, we have all of these other opportunities for people to park their cash or roll something into something, or hey, we just want to be involved with what's going on, or that we have other folks that have made money along the way that have been, our brokers and stuff. And they're like, hey, listen, what you guys are doing, we just want to be a part of it. And
Dude, I want to drill in on that right there because
sure.
that's kind of the limiting belief that stops most people from growing and scaling is I can't use other people's money or I don't want to bring on other people's money. But if you think about what Dan has done is continuing to do by building your brand and documenting your journey, talking about what you're doing, you're not pitching deals. You're just documenting, showing what you're doing on a day-to-day basis. Like you're showing how you're growing, you're showing what you're learning, you're being vulnerable, you're having those level of conversations that you normally wouldn't have with just most people to kind of show the transparency of the growth of your journey. People
Yeah.
will buy into that. As you've seen, I bet you since your Coastal Chronicles YouTube channel has come out and you've been posting a ton on social media. I know you and Cassie are always all up in my feed and Facebook and Instagram. So,
Yeah.
just doing that alone, it inspires people to reach out to you because think about it. If you put it from an investor's perspective, right? You're like, hey, I don't really know much about construction. I don't really know much about short-term rental, but I love the idea of it. But I don't have the time to manage it. I don't have the skill set. I don't have anything. And now Dan and Cassie keep showing up in my Facebook, my social media feeds,
Yeah.
and they own a bunch of short-term rentals and they're doing all this construction stuff and they're documenting it along the way and they're having success doing it. If I'm going to put my money with anybody, I want to do it with somebody that's already doing it. And you fill that role now. So tell me if I'm lying here, but have you seen like a huge increase in, your DMs blowing up because people are like, hey, what are you working on? Is there anything I can get involved with or with you?
Yeah, absolutely. So a couple weeks ago, I was down in Charleston getting on a podcast. And when I was, down there, obviously we'll be using that for content. We'll be chopping that up. But,
Hmm.
I had an abundance of folks reaching out. So, hey, while you're in town, can we sit down and get coffee? I've got, some money I've got working in an IRA that's making 3%. I need to put that into something that's going to do something different. Or, hey, Massey, I missed you. when are you going to be back in town, or, hey, can I come up there and talk to you, or whatever the case might be. But yeah, just from putting stuff out there and showing what we have going on, it's just amazing. We finally got into the self-storage space. It was something we, had been wanting to do for a while, but really hadn't had the resources or the knowledge, or, we didn't really know where to start. And so it was one of those things where we just started saying, hey, look, this is what we're looking for. Here's what we want to do. And, just amazing, just people in our own group were like, oh, well, you need to get with this guy, or, hey, you need to get with this guy. So I ended up buying one from a guy through a Charleston group who's actually based in Wilmington. I was like, well, what are the freaking odds of that? So we finally took that one down a couple of weeks ago, and, we're working on getting all the systems and processes in place. But yeah, to kind of circle back to answer your question, it's just, it's amazing the things that just kind of come just from, like you said, being vulnerable and sharing our story. And, we might not necessarily come across, the most educated by any means, but, we're learning just like everybody else is. We're putting in the time, we're putting ourselves out there, trying to put ourselves around all the right people. And, I think just like you said on the last Water Wednesday, was just be able to have a conversation about what we have going on, and not just, talk about what's going on with this sports team, or what's going on with my neighbor, with this and that. Who gives a shit, right? Let's talk about what are we doing that's, improving our life, and what are we doing to improve our future.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Yeah. So I want to touch on that real quick, because what you've done by removing yourself from being the contractor and being the manager has opened up your time to be able to have those level of conversations, right? It's enabled you to think about how to work on your business instead of in your business. And by working on your business, Tim Bratz is, I follow him religiously as well. But the two things that you need to be doing are focusing on finding deals and finding money. But if you're the one swinging the hammer, you can't do really
Yeah.
either of those. Now,
Yeah.
you could argue that you're going to find some money and some deals along the way, but you're not going to be able to do it at the level of scale that you and I aspire to.
Yeah.
And, I love that when you, well, your brother, because it's not Wednesday. So, so when I had never met you before, but I had known you from social media because of your documentation, right? So then when you said that you had moved up here last summer, you were like, hey, it's my birthday and we're going to be out on the water. Do you want to meet up? And it was Wednesday. I was like, hell yeah, it's
Yeah.
Wednesday. Like,
Good.
this is my day. I schedule it. So Water Wednesdays is now a thing. My wife and I were doing it for a while, and then Dan and Cassie heard about it. And basically, we don't allow anybody to schedule time with us on Wednesdays. So if I want to go play golf, or, I want to work on something that I need to grow my business, or if the weather's bad or whatever, like I can do whatever moves my business forward. Let me do the needle moving activities. But when it's nice out, or if the opportunity arises to go do something fun, like go out on a boat or go fishing or go play golf or whatever the situation may be, I'm going to go do that, because it's all about a life of balance. And we like to say lifestyle by design, right? I mean, that's why you're wearing that hat. You can wear it because you can.
That's right. Yeah. Pick this thing up by the guy who made it down in Puerto Rico a few weeks back. And yeah, definitely, dude. For sure. I mean, I love it. We live on the water now, so it's kind of, I do have a little cheat code where I can go sit on my dock if I wanted to, but to actually get out in the boat and go enjoy it, or go to the beach, or whatever the case may be, or if it's wintertime, go use the Water Wednesday to go play in the snow if you want to, in the mountains. But no, these are, was Cassie and I were kind of talking this morning about reflecting on how far we've come along the way, and the fact that, things kind of took off a little bit later for us as far as in the real estate side of things. But, we've been entrepreneurs for as long as we've been together, 15 years. And really just the last, 3 or 4 things really, really started to take off for us. And that was getting involved in real estate. And then, that's going well as far as the single family stuff, but realizing the generational stuff and the wealth really comes from getting out of the single family fix and flips. Although we're going to continue to do that right now, just as we're stabilizing all of these long-term investments, we're still going to flip a couple here. It's nice to get a 6-figure check.
Oh yeah. You can't, I mean, the kill and eat net, I mean, you still need money, right? At the end of the day.
Right.
And it doesn't matter how you make it, but let's talk about that a little bit more. So What has it been like with you learning? Like, you're really comfortable. Like, nobody just goes out and flips 50 plus houses a year for fun, right? Like, you have the systems and processes,
Yeah.
and that is your comfort zone, right? So what was it like when you're in your comfort zone, you have a level of success that you potentially never thought you'd ever have, but yet you surrounded yourself with people that you want to aspire to be like, that have even more success than you do. What was it like when you were looking up that like mountain of buying your first self-storage facility or buying your first apartment complex or anything along those lines in the commercial space that has really helped you kind of expand your mindset and learn how to continue to grow in those new asset classes?
Well, I think it's really come from a mindset of being around the right people. Like I said, flipping 50 houses a year is not easy, but having the right crews or the right partners, or the right subs, whatever, that's really what it takes in the processes and systems and managers and all that same stuff. But if you really want to scale and get to the next level, you got to do something that, like you said, I can step back out of it and really evaluate what it is that we want to go after. And that was shifting over to, like I say, the self storage and more commercial stuff, and realizing that partnerships are hard and not all of them are easy, not all of them are great. We're going through some lumps right now with some new construction stuff that we were using a guy from South Carolina to do some new builds for us here in town, and we just have continued to have delays. And part of that is just realizing, like, I think Javier touched on it yesterday about being a good partner and
Hmm.
realizing, hey, even though you're doing all you're supposed to be doing, is there something else you could be doing, to kind of carry your weight or help things move along a little bit more? Because sometimes that person gets overcommitted, or they're not as versed in that side. So, for us, it was just about how to get in the right conversations, and figure out what is our strong points. Or I can go out and find all the deals and analyze them, but do I know anything about running self storage? No, but somebody else that's involved in it does. Or, hey, here's what I did, and here's the software, and here's the all the other things you need. And gave us like 10 bullet points of stuff we needed to order, and people we need to talk to, and things we need to sign up for, and so on and so forth. How to raise the rents, and all that type of stuff. And then we found an opportunity in our local market to buy two duplexes that came with some extra dirt, so we'll be able to develop some multifamily here. So that's huge. I think you've done stuff all over North and South Carolina, and realizing trying to do something in your home market sounds fantastic, but if we're in a home market that is really transitioning to where there's more new construction stuff going on, there's not a whole lot of value add on the backside, or it's like it's the same value. What are people going to choose? So, but yeah, part of that, just transitioning is going to these events and sign up for different masterminds, and just getting comfortable with the lingo. That's half of the battle, is knowing what the hell you're talking about.
Yeah, I'd love to hear you say it, right? Because I know that sometimes I feel like a broken record of like, build your network and go to the mastermind events and like associate yourself with the people you want to be around. And you are the average of the five people that you surround. Like all of those super cliche sayings that are, a deadbeat horse, but it's because it's true, right? It's like,
Yeah.
whenever you're trying to learn how to do something new, like if you didn't put yourself in that situation to be able to have a relationship with somebody that was already doing the self storage stuff, you wouldn't have been as easily able to just make a phone call and get a text message with 10 bullet points of here's everything that you need to do. Here's the keys to the kingdom. Here you go. Right. Because at some point in time, you probably provided some level of value to that person, and now they're reciprocating it. The law of reciprocity, right?
Yeah.
Like, you provide value with no expectation of return. And then eventually, if you need help, like somebody's going to be willing to help you back because one, we all have that same mindset of be a giver, right? At the end of
Yeah.
the day. But
Yeah.
two, you've built up all that goodwill and good that goodwill capital for people willing and able that want to pay you back, that want to help you, that want to see you succeed. And it's like, yeah, it costs money to be in those rooms, but the reason they cost money is because I value myself at a certain dollar point or more. So I
Yeah.
know that if those same people are in the room, they at least value themselves as much. And we should be having more conversation. And I can guarantee you, I mean, you've experienced it. And most of the people that are commenting right now on the Facebook feed, they've all experienced it too. But when you get into that small room environment of, 20, maybe 30 people max, and you all paid a couple $1,000s to be there, the information is just different. The conversations are different. The flow and the vibe, like you're on a different vibration when you're in a room with that many people that are all on the same vibration, right? And it's really hard to explain, but once you're there and you can feel it, you can feel it. Like, you were at the race car and real estate event in that Tim Vest and I held in Atlanta. I came out of that event. I hosted that event, and I came out of that event a changed person. Like, there was so much stuff that we learned there, and the conversations were incredible, that it's just like, wow, you can never unsee what now I've seen because I've had those conversations with those people and been in that room.
Yeah, and that just like I think we both put on events last year, and mine I think was during a hurricane, and
Yeah, it
was
was.
very wordy. And for us, like it was really our first year of like attending events, and went to several that we enjoyed, and some of them they were talking about like wholesaling real estate. They'd have 2 or 3 different people talking about wholesaling real estate, and for us, we're like, all right, how can we educate as many people about just getting into real estate investing in the single family, not really realizing we were going to be shifting our focus, so rapidly. But, we wanted to talk about, where to find money, where to find the short-term money, long-term money, where to find wholesalers, how it can do virtual flipping or in-person flipping, or, leveraging credit with Chris Lamb and all of this stuff. And then had you talk about multifamily, and it was just like, holy shit, we were all just mentally exhausted. And then it was like, oh, by the way, now we're going to go to dinner for 2 hours. And then the next day was let's tour some property. And it was just really long. Whereas yours was, all right, listen, we're going to all get together, have dinner the night before. We're going to go in, talk for 3 hours, and we're going to drive race cars for 5 hours. And you got more value out of just hanging out and being around people than going to dinner, as opposed to just 2 days of lecturing. So, those are just things we learned just from hosting an event and going to more events. You're just like, some of them you want them to be wordy, and most of the other ones it's just about the social interaction and just having a casual conversation and not necessarily getting lectured to.
Yeah, you create the environment that you want to be in, right? You create the environment of, I know that having conversations with people is the most amount of value that I could bring to them, because I can't help you if you don't ask me a question.
Yeah.
So I want to put myself, and I want to put that other person in an environment where it gives them the freedom and the opportunity and that like safe space to ask me a personal or vulnerable question. Cause like, I want to tell you, like, I'm an open book, you know everything about me. Right. And probably too much, at that point, but like, I'm okay with that. Right. Because at the end of the day, it's like, I showed you my underbelly. Now you know exactly who I am. I have nothing to hide, right?
Yeah.
So then you get to this different level of friendship and relationship that you're like, oh, I know that that's Tim's strong point, or that's his weak point, or whatever. And it's like, I know somebody that can help you because I told you what my vulnerabilities are. You're like, dude, that shouldn't be your vulnerability. You just need to talk to this person, right? It all comes back to, the who, not how, right? And it's when you start talking about those vulnerabilities that you really make those breakthroughs where you can help connect people. I don't get anything out of it. You don't get anything out of it, right? But it's just like the power of information and relationships are out there. You just, you're one relationship away from changing your life.
Yeah. And you want to tell people, you're like,
Yeah,
hey, listen, man, let me save you time. Let me save you money. Let me save you effort. Let me save you heartache or frustration or stress, all this shit that's, unnecessary. If I've already been there, let me help you get, past that quicker.
Yeah.
And that's, kind of the thing for us is like, there's certain things that we won't talk about just because we're not experts in it yet. Or say, hey, listen, I might not know that, but Tim does. Or, you want to learn about how to use credit cards in your business or lines of credit. Hey, hit my boy Chris Lamb up. Or you want to learn about more virtual fix and flip. Hey, call my boy Nate. Or whatever it might be. You want to learn how to look intimidating. I can help you with that.
Yeah, the hat is totally intimidating.
Yeah, you want to learn how to cook a steak? Call my boy Tim.
Oh yeah, I can make some stuff on the grill. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Well, cool. All right, man. So we talked about everything that's going well. Tell us something like that it is deep and a little vulnerable. It's like something that made you doubt yourself, or maybe almost made you quit? Or what are some adversities that you're facing today that would deter most people that would just want to kind of throw in the towel and walk away from it? Because we could talk about all the, the unicorns and rainbows all day, right? Of all the things that are going right in our business, but what are some things that are going wrong right now that you're trying to deal with, or that you can help people work through?
Well, I would say in the fix and flip industry, I would say that money has gotten more expensive, or
Oh,
that,
that's across the board.
yeah, or the fact that contractors they're becoming a little bit more available, just because their work has kind of dried up a little bit. But for us, we have a consistent workflow, a consistent team. But things that are creeping up are one, the cost of money, two, how long jobs are just kind of dragging along, or the fact that you have more homeowners that are, unfortunately, people want to go work for homeowners, which that was never a goal of mine, although it was kind of part of the process. But just keeping labor and keeping them guys on task, or having guys that have just up and moved out of nowhere. A couple of other challenges, like we have one of these. We had a second storage unit under contract. We had the lending lined up. They told us they're going to do 80% of the loan at like 7%. And then they came back and said, okay, we can do 70% of the loan. It's going to be 10.5%, 5 years prepayment, with 5% prepayment penalty for 5 years. And I was like, that just doesn't
Ooh,
sound sexy or worth it at
5%.
all. And so, the wholesaler who we got the contract with, he's like asking for an update every day. And we're like, hey man, listen, like we're actively pursuing, some other resources. One of my partners is the president of a bank. So of course we can't do any business with his bank, but he knows all the other bankers throughout the state and now in North Carolina as well. So leaning on that relationship is one of those things. Like if he can't find us somebody to lend on it, then it's probably just, not meant to be. And kind of touching also on the shiny object thing. So, as my time kind of frees up, that, frees up time to look at more things. And one of those things that we're looking to get into is more self-storage and converting Kmart's or old shopping centers or old mall or whatever. And we came across a school that came up for like 300K from one of the guys in the legacy group. And I was like, man, that is something I'd really like to kind of, look into. And ultimately it came down to like, I got to execute on everything we have going on right now. I got to get everything stabilized. Like, I don't need to be buying that shit. We did look at it. We spent some time, really analyzing it and underwriting it. And at the end of the day, we're like, I just don't think this is the right time. This isn't the right time for us. So that's just one of the things, is just making sure you're not overcommitting or just taking something on just because it sounds cool or something you want to do. If it doesn't work out or timing's not right, if you got other people's money involved in it, that's the whole nother stress factor. You think about something you did that has, none of your money into it, but if it fails, you think about all the relationships that, that would, those that would ruin. You're counting on that and they're counting on you to deliver. And, those are just some of the small challenges we're facing, but, we're also dealing with some other permit issues. Those are just things that we have no control over. Somebody in the permit office that is just fighting us on a couple. Just they want the appraisal to be worded a certain way. They're not going to accept this appraisal, even though it cost us $5,000 to get the appraisal done. So, just staying strong and staying positive, and handling the things you can handle.
Yeah, yeah, I love that you walked away ultimately from that school deal. And I'm not saying that it couldn't have been a very lucrative deal, but you would have put 90% of your time and effort and
Yeah.
resources into one deal. And we got a couple deals floating around right now that have been more difficult than most. And all of the time and energy and focus has gone into those deals. And it's not taking away from our other deals, but we, have a good balance in our portfolio of easy deals versus heavy lift deals, right?
Yeah.
And having that balance and understanding of where you are in your business and what you can actually take on, and does that align with your goals, right? Does it align with your balance in your lifestyle? Does it align with what you're trying to achieve in the short term, in the long term? And you can make an argument either way, but it's ultimately up to you to make that decision and say, hey, I have also, I don't want to glaze over the fact about the fiduciary responsibility of your investors, right? I mean, you are the caretaker of their money, and that is not something that is very light at all. And as a syndicator, yeah, I might not put any of my own money or maybe even a very small amount of my own money into a deal. But if one deal goes bad and my reputation is, basically my three-legged stool, if one of those legs is gone, my business is gone. My ability to make money is, gone
Yeah.
essentially, right? I mean, you lose that credibility and that focus, and you can lose a lot of money really quickly, but you can also gain a lot of money really quickly. So,
Yeah.
it's a double-edged sword. It cuts both ways, and having an understanding of where you are in your business and your pain threshold is also really important. So it's good to hear that other people are looking at deals and they're like interested in them and they have shiny object syndrome. I think that's one of the things that most people in our industry have, but having that laser focus of exactly what Dan and Cassie want to achieve. Do they want to continue to grow the container business? Yes. Okay. Well, at what rate? And what is a reason? What's a smart goal to grow the container business? And what's a smart goal to get into the, what did you have, a lifetime? One of your goals was to have like 100 short-term rentals or something like
Yep.
that. Yeah,
Hmm.
so like where does that align in doing this goal, right? And it's picking where your end target is. And I love to say, in our coaching group, we go through this exercise because if you can write down what your near term and long term goals are, it makes it very easy for you to stay focused and not get that shiny object syndrome. And when a decision comes across your plate, you can say, does this align with my goals? Yes or no, right? And if it's no, then you just say no and continue walking away from it. But I think that people that don't have their goals written down, then they can see frequently that it is a reminder of what they're doing and why. That's when that shiny object syndrome comes into play because they're like, ooh, I could make $500,000 over here. Right. But it's like, it doesn't. You shouldn't do that because it doesn't align with what you wrote down.
Well, touching on that point about writing your goals down. So for me, I keep them, they're in my notes on my phone that I have a third computer screen here. And it's always like, that's what's pulled out on that third screen is always my goals or a daily routine or a property list, kind of going through where everything is. But this other fella kind of touched on like writing down your 10 goals every day. And you can't look back on your previous day. And if you forget to write something down, well, it just wasn't that important of a goal anyway.
Yep.
So you
I
put
like
a
that.
new one in place. But when it's all whittled down and you've consistently had the same ones written down, they've been, cemented in your brain as something you want to accomplish. When you complete one, you cross it out and you add a new one to the list. But like literally writing them out every single day. So that's not something I do. I keep mine, like say, they're in front of me all day, every day when I'm on the
I love it.
computer. But yeah, man, just plugging away and trying to stay on task. We've already, accomplished a few of our goals already for the year, which is, we just shot too short, but that's fine. It's good. Good goal for us to have was do 3 commercial deals. We're already done with that. So
Boom.
I guess we
Love
need to
it.
figure out how you and I can do something together here
I'm
pretty soon.
trying, we looked at that hotel or motel or whatever, but
Yeah.
$7 million for that place don't happen. It ain't happening.
No, not going to force something. So
No,
I do have a
absolutely not.
feeling though there's going to be some development deals that are going to come our way sooner than later. I've met with some local folks as well, so we could talk about that tomorrow on the boat. And tomorrow, Water Wednesday, might be
It
a little.
is, but it's gonna be cold, man. It's gonna be like 30 something degrees out. So that's
Yeah,
that's why we're JD, if you're still listening, that's why we're not on the boat today. It's cold.
that's right. That's right.
Well, all right, Dan. Well, thanks so much for being here. I appreciate, I value our friendship and I appreciate everything that you said on here today. I think a lot of people took away value from this because they probably or might be going through the same thing of trying to transition from fix and flip in the single family space and going into the commercial real estate space. And I think, how can people get in touch with you if they're interested in learning more about investment opportunities that you have or like your coaching business or your mastermind events and things that you do that help people get either started in fix and flip? I mean, if you're doing 50 plus flips a year, like you got to have the right systems dialed in. And if somebody on here is listening and they want to do fix and flips, like, how can people get in touch with you?
Yeah, the best way is either shoot me an email, dan@palmettocontainer.com, or follow us on any of the social media platforms. We're on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube, any of those things. We do have a couple of of fake accounts out there, but you'll find the right one, I'm sure. And just shoot me a DM, shoot me a friend request. Happy to connect with anybody. Happy to help in any way that I possibly can or add value. And if I can't, I'll definitely find you the source that can.
Awesome. All right, man. Well, thanks so much. I'll see you next time.
My brother. See you, man.
Peace.